You have no idea how long I've been waiting to sit back and post up this video all day. Quick recap. So, Adam Gase has been fired by the Miami Dolphins. Stephen Ross, the owner. Mike Tannenbaum stepped down from being the vice president for the Miami Dolphins. Chris Grier has been promoted to being the general, not only just the general manager, but he's going to be the vice president, head of football operations for the Miami Dolphins. Those three things we're going to sit back and cover. First of all, of course, Adam Gase being fired. I'm extremely disappointed. Yes, because to be honest, I felt like 3 years was just not enough. Like, you sit back and look at this resume. 2016, wild card. 2017, a serious turn of events. So we think about the hurricane down in Miami. Not end up having a bye week. Chris Forrester sniffing coke. Ryan Tannehill was unable to play the whole 2017 season. Excuse me. Jay Cutler coming in. People, you know what's crazy about that 2017 season that people will just not sit back and let go about Adam Gase is, why do we bring in Jay Cutler? You sit back and tell me who could have came in and did a better job in that particular situation. Because if you sit back and talk about Colin Kaepernick, I told you millions and millions of times, Colin Kaepernick was not going to work. Number one, because of the fact that he had that Fidel Castro and that Malcolm X T-shirt on the week that we played him in week 16 in years 2016, and the fact that they had that whole issue as far as what was going on in Cuba with how that was going on at the same time. I'm not here to get into that whole situation, but that was just not going to be a mix. So y'all gonna have to sit back and let that one go. Now, y'all can sit back and keep talking about as far as like how it's just making excuses. When it comes down to it, that's just end up what it came down to on the 2017 season. Now this past year, 2018, it was an injury-plagued season. You look at it, Albert Wilson hurt, Jakeem Grant hurt, Kilgore hurt, Josh Sitton hurt. Like the list goes on and on as far as the players that were ended up hurt this season. And like I keep telling you, like one of the biggest issues that we had going on in this 2018 season was the fact that we were unable to protect our quarterback. And in the inconsistencies on the offense, yes, of course, that was an issue. But like I told you, the offensive line is a very, very pivotal part of the team's success. And it goes to show over the years in Miami of the lack of our offensive line consistency. That's where our success comes from. And I can tell you right now, if whoever we decide to bring in as our head coach moving forward, if I strongly feel we're about 6 players away. 6 players away from actually making a division run. Really making a division run. So I don't want to hear moving forward. This is what Adam Gase was not able to do. I'm going to give you 3 examples of what Adam Gase's genius mind could do as far as the offense. I'm pretty sure he's going to sit back and have a job. But let's sit back and let's roll it up real quick. Roll it up. Sit back and look at those plays. One of the main parts that I'm going to sit back and highlight is the fact that Tannehill had time in the pocket. Well, wherever quarterback was in the pocket, was running the quarterback was under center, had time in the pocket to actually make those plays. Which, when you look at it, like I said, Adam Gase is an offensive genius when it comes down to putting up plays. Unfortunately, it has not gone to show. But you know what's really funny? How we sat back and started off 3-0, and you know what was coming out of everybody's mouths? The Dolphins are going to the Super Bowl. The Dolphins are this. The Dolphins are that. I ain't hear not one thing hateful towards Ryan Tannehill or Adam Gase. You just sit back and saying how much of a genius he was. For those that sat back and said those things, but y'all sat back and was quick to sit back and change your tune up, and now look where we at right now. Now, looking towards the whole Ryan Tannehill situation, because as far as moving forward, as far as the whole reason why Gase was fired, there was a lot of things that were said about as far as Adam Gase didn't speak to Stephen Ross well after the Indianapolis Colts loss. I'm not real big in that stuff. The whole thing about he lost the team because he kept on making excuses for Ryan Tannehill. Now that one I really want to sit back and cover. I want to sit back and cover that because it reminded me back in 2015 about Ryan Tannehill a comment that he made during practice towards a practice squad player, that they would sit back and they was intercepting Ryan Tannehill too much. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I ended up covering this. If I got to go back in my history and actually look at it. But the quote, basically what happened was, like I said, a practice player was intercepting Ryan Tannehill too much. And this is what Ryan Tannehill said, and this is the quote: "Enjoy your practice squad paycheck. Enjoy your practice squad trophy." That's what he said. And then it came out that Joe Philbin at the time was the head coach, told the defensive players at the time to ease up on Tannehill because he was throwing interceptions. It's going to affect his confidence. Now, that, as far as what the players have said back and said about Ryan Tannehill, that I will believe, and we can all agree upon the fact that Ryan Tannehill is most definitely going to be out of Miami. If because of that, one thing I will sit back and disagree upon about Adam Gase, I don't know what's going on in the locker room. Locker room, as far as what I see, field productivity are two different things about what we see and what they see behind closed doors. If you got to sit back and sacrifice the team for one player, you got to get rid of that one player. That bad apple got to go quick. Got to go real quick. I understand what you sit back and trying to do, but at the end of the day, you can't lose the ship to the iceberg. You got to save. You got to save the passengers. You literally got to save the passengers. So, with that being said, 9 times out of 10, I feel that Ryan Tannehill will not be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins moving forward. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the future. Like I said back, I told you, Chris Grier is going to be the vice president for the Miami Dolphins, head of football operations, and the general manager. So he's the head dude in charge here. He's the head dude in charge. And reports directly to Stephen Ross. Like I told you, I have not disagreed with anything that Chris Grier has done. That's something I can actually sit back and live with, because I felt like he should have stayed. He was one of the ones that most definitely should have been rewarded. Mike Tannenbaum was just there. I don't understand why he was there. I'm pretty sure on the plane ride home, the conversation was, Tannenbaum, you're gone. Grier, you're promoted. And then Adam Gase was giving him an ultimatum, which about the rebuild, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, Chris Grier, I felt like he was well deserved, considering how he's done an excellent job drafting over the past 3 years. So I'm good with Grier. Now, these accusations as far as a rebuild, like I told you, I feel like we are literally 6 players away from being a contender. 6 players. What we sit back and doing a rebuild for? We sit back and it's a plug and play. It ain't no rebuild. Trust me, it ain't no rebuild. I've seen teams in worse situations. This ain't no goddamn rebuild. So with that being said, Ryan Tannehill, like I said, is gonna go. So I don't know how they're gonna end up doing this whole situation. Perhaps we can end up making a trade. Like, I think that this is the most ideal situation for us if we actually if we make a trade with the Minnesota Vikings. If they're unhappy with what's his name, Kirk Cousins, we could possibly trade for Kirk Cousins. We swap out Ryan Tannehill. Possibly that may work. Something like that. Cap hit still about the same, except for Kirk Cousins' money is going to be guaranteed, but I feel like he's being misused as far as being with the Minnesota Vikings. But if I'm looking at some of these coaching candidates, because a lot of coaches got fired today. Looking at Bruce Arians, I think Bruce Arians, he wasn't fired today, but Bruce Arians, I like him as a head coach. I heard buzzes about Rex Ryan. I totally do not agree with the Rex Ryan thing because of the fact that he cannot develop a quarterback whatsoever. He's a defensive specialist, defensive-minded coach, which I think he should strictly stay a defensive coordinator. Now, the Harbaugh brothers have consistently been rooming around, but looking at the Baltimore Ravens, I believe Harbaugh's going to end up staying up there in Baltimore, and the other Harbaugh brothers going to end up staying in Michigan. But looking at some of these candidates that they have spoken out so far, Chris Richard, that's the defensive back coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Not a fan of that. Then you have the Vic Fangio, for the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. I'm not a fan of that. Like I told you, I would prefer to sit back and have a head coach that was already a head coach before, that has experience doing it. Because I'm looking at the Chicago Bears defensive coordinator. I'm not really a fan of that, because really, look at the personnel that you have on that team. Chris Richard, the defensive back coach for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not impressed. I don't really trust anything from the Dallas Cowboys. I will not touch it. So with that being said, I can't do it, man. I literally can't do it. But it felt good to get that joint off my chest. I can't wait to sit back and see what next domino effect happens moving forward. Let me know what you guys think. You know what it is. If you enjoy the content, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. This is GreatOne DeVore. I'm up out of here.